Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hi guys, welcome back to Heavy Metal Tones. This is episode 7. Hey, what do you hear? I can hear in the distance, on the breeze, in the sun. It's a 20-minute keyboard solo. Oh no, hang on. It's an album about goblins and witches and elves. Is it? Or is it just my imagination? Oh, I tell you what, it's my imagination. Yes, today we're going to be talking about progressive rock and its influence into heavy metal. And why I said that at the beginning about what do I hear? What's going on? Because there are some misnomers and some misunderstandings about prog. It's not a four-letter word. Well, it is, but it's not a naughty four-letter word. You should, like me, embrace it. It basically, if anyone out there who doesn't know what progressive rock is, Russell, notes, preparation. Those that don't know what progressive rock is, it's a musical form that basically came from the UK in the mid-60s to the early 70s. That was its main period. Outside of that, it's not really true prog, because like punk is only for 2 years. It's the same as this movement. It's defined by people's misunderstandings. So, you've got to look at the time we're coming from. We've got your pop music with your Beatles. You've got your rock music with your Deep Purples and your Rolling Stones and so on. And then comes along this movement. It's born mainly from the university campuses of the UK, like Cambridge and Oxford. And it's people with more musical ability wanting to make music that felt was more intellectual, not just your 4/4 rock and roll rhythms, rock around the clock, that sort of thing. They wanted to use their classical inclinations and make classical driven rock music. It has jazz and psychedelic influences and fusions. It's a combination of fundamentalism and eclecticism. Formalization and eclecticism. Not fundamentalization, that's the wrong word. Put your teeth in, Tone. Okay. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the word progressive as advocating progression, change, or reform. And that's what it's doing. That's what the progressive movement was doing. It wasn't trying to be intellectually superior to those that like rockabilly and psychobilly and punk and rock and pop. It wasn't trying to say we are more elite. What they were doing, bands like Van der Graaf Generator, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Yes, Genesis, King Crimson, to name a few. What they were doing is they were fusing their ability to play a much more intricate music into a more electric modern influence. And so sometimes people think, oh, hang on, I'm going to put on, classic example is a good example. I've listened to prog since I was a child, but I always stayed away from Rick Wakeman's solo albums like Journey to the Centre of the Earth, Henry VIII and His Six Wives, King Arthur. My brother loved them, but I stayed away from them because I thought, they're just going to be 45-minute keyboard solos. And I loved keyboards, don't get me wrong, but I'm a guitar man, so I was like, oh no, I'm going to be boring. But later in life, I mean, John, my good friend John, he said, here, have a listen to Journey to the Centre of the Earth. It blew my mind. It was fantastic. It was everything I love about prog. So what I love about prog, and what's the big thing about that everyone thinks of, apart from all the wizards and capes and keyboard solos and silliness and bloated self-opinion, is that it has, most of the albums have a concept or a story driven. It's not just a collection of 8 songs that go well. It's each song will either lead to another, have a reason to be there, and tell a story. And that's what happened with Journey to the Centre of the Earth. It happens with all the great concept albums. They're usually double albums because you've got to get the story in, and they're usually punctuated with stories, so non-musical pieces, classical pieces, and some amazing syncopation and jazz fusion, like I mentioned. So, yes, it can take people from who listen to straight hard up rock and roll a bit of effort to delve into this music, but I recommend you guys to actually do give it a go. Some of it, even for me, is a little beyond. Now, I think you might notice I didn't mention Pink Floyd in that list. So all you prog heads out there going, oh, you didn't say Pink Floyd, what about Pink Floyd? I personally don't consider Pink Floyd a progressive band. They make music, and did make music, progressively, so they did use some interesting recording techniques. They played in interesting time signatures, which is one of the main DNA factors of progressive rock music. But they were more... Okay, again, this is what I mentioned with John when we have our long conversations about this. I see progressive music as pastoral, very English, very cream tea, sunshine, fields, dreams, and romanticism. It's a soft, if you imagine a waveform, it's something angular like metal is and hard. It's soft and wavering and has its moments where it bites, but it's mainly soft and round. Whereas I find Floyd to be angular and also political. Progressive rock music is not political. It never had a political bent. Later bands, like my favourite band, Marillion, they used their form of neo-progressive rock from sort of when they formed in 79, 80 to now, till Fish left in 89. They did have a political edge to them, but that's because Fish was a political animal. Same with Roger Waters, is a political animal, so therefore his music is a bit political, and therefore I don't really see some of that as progressive rock music in the traditional sense of the word. Okay, and when you say, "Oh, but hang on, I'm not going to listen to progressive rock because it's not hard," well, think again. If any of you have ever had the chance to put Emerson, Lake and Palmer on, and I highly recommend you do this, and go to YouTube and find 21st Century Schizoid Man. If you don't think that is one of the hardest songs you've ever heard, that's not metal, then I would eat my hat. I don't have any hats, but I'll buy one and eat it. It is a wondrous piece of hard, progressive rock. It's slightly different to what I said, so it's not as soft and as curvy. It is angular, but as I said, they have their attack moments, and that's a moment for you. I think you're going to find that's the way in, I reckon. Again, another part of the DNA of concept albums and progressive rock is the artwork. The artwork, mostly by Roger Dean, did a lot of the work for Yes. It's beautiful. Like we all love Maiden albums for that reason, don't we? We had the cover is just, it tells you a story. It's picturesque. You want to own it and look at it. They have liner notes. The lyrics are interesting. You have to concentrate. The difference with prog is if you have most prog albums, you put them on, you have to be in that moment. It's very difficult to put a prog album on and go, I'll go make a cup of tea and come back, or I'll do something while I'm listening to it. Unless you know the piece, you're going to have to sit there and actually listen to it. Like my brother said once, it is drug-fueled. Yes, it was drug-fueled. This is the 60s and early 70s. This is the university scene. Yes, there were drugs. And like my brother once said to me, people take drugs now, they go out for a good time. He took LSD. He was the chair. He didn't leave for 3 days. Right? So, it's that sort of intensity. It's also, as I said, when it go back to it, advocating progression and change or reform. So they're not trying to completely destroy the ethos of rock and roll. I think that's not their goal. Their goal is to reform their corner of rock and roll to make it more palatable to their more classical leanings, their jazz fusion. I mean, I can tell you now, honestly, if you put on albums, there's a UK band, a supergroup band called UK. I mean, you should be listening to that. It is superb. The musicianship between all the individuals, you could pull them all out and you'd know, wow, each individual is so talented. That's, again, not saying that rock and roll isn't and metal isn't, because we're going to get onto that in a minute, but it's just saying that they brought a different, more adult. It's like, if you think about it, it was like the blues is the birth, rock and roll is the youth, the vibrant teenagers, and progressive rock to me is the grown-up, married with 2 children, a car and a mortgage kind of music. It's that progression through. I'm not saying you have to be that person. I started listening to progressive rock when I was about 7 or 8, because I got onto my brother's collection and grabbed things like Genesis and Jethro Tull, which I've talked about before on the pod. ELP. I mean, Brain Salad Surgery with a cover by Geiger. If you look at that album, it's bifold. So you open up the 2 gates. You've got the airbrush artwork by Geiger, who did the Alien sets and Alien design. Amazing. Okay. Little side note: my sister did a bit of set painting when she was at college back in the 70s, and she helped paint some of the Alien sets with Geiger. She met him and he said he was as crazy as you'd imagine. Anyway, side note. So there was lots of aspects to it. So it went from being raw and viscous and it grew up. And what happens when things grow up? When you mature and you become different, and this is what this is. So I'm rambling here, guys, but really, yeah, so, ELP is my favourite of the really, really hardcore progressive music, but Genesis is my main love. Early Genesis, up until when Peter Gabriel left, even the 2 albums with the purveyor of ultimate filth, Phil Collins, on vocals. I cannot stand that man's voice. People know it. I don't know why, but the first 2 albums when he was replicating Gabriel, so on Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wuthering, it's almost not really Collins, and I like that, and there's some fantastic guitar pieces. Of course, Stephen Hackett, who I've talked about before in this pod, is one of my favourite guitarists, is predominant on those albums until he left at Wind and Wuthering. After that, it just became a filthy pop band, and nothing wrong with pop. It's just that when you sit down to listen to Genesis, you don't want pop. Anyway, that's me, that's not generally you. Okay, I'm just going to say that. It also irks me slightly that people sit and think, oh, it's only for the educated, it's only the universities, it's only what we call the Monty Python group. The real ale drinkers, back in their 70s, the wine drinkers, they drove their MGs, worked in the city, mum and daddy had some money, those kind of people. It's not that. Because if you look at the audience and in videos of any of those progressive bands back in the 70s, they're a mix of everyone. All right? And again, we're going to stop in a minute for a break because I need a drink of water, but I'm going to come back on the other side in a minute. I'm going to talk about why it is that music is the way it is now, and why progressive rock and progressive metal will struggle to be mainstream. There's a good reason for it. All right, there's a good reason for it. I'm going to sort of stop now, go and get myself a cup of tea, and refresh my brain, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, see you soon, guys. Okay, guys, what we're going to do, lockdown ends in a few weeks. The basement's available as of the 15th. Check out what's the restrictions and what we can do. All the information's online, but local business will be open for some music, some food, and some entertainment, and just to catch up with your friends in a friendly, music-loving environment. So check out the basement's website, check out what's coming up, check out the restrictions, and let's get together, have a beer, have a feed, and rock out. Welcome back, guys, to part 2. Too far away from the mic. I went up and made my tea, so I'm sorry, just readjusting myself. Anyway, yes, I made a nice cup of tea. Milk in first. I'm not a heathen. You know, that's the way it is. Milk in first. Anyway. Click, click. Hear that? I have to hit the keyboard every now and again, and I get little clicks in the background, and I'm not very good at removing them. So if it irritates you, sorry. Anyway, where was we talking? We were talking about why progressive rock music and progressive metal is not going to be mainstream within today's music. I think it comes down to attention span and the ability to what's out there. More music has been made now in the history of man than ever before. More music now than ever in the history of man. The proliferation of music is so great because of, like me, sitting in my spare room doing my podcast. People can do the same thing, recording music, and all these plugins and all this stuff. It makes, if you're digitally savvy, you can make music. What that means is that, you know, as I said, 30, 40 years ago, when you went to get music, like I've talked this back before about consumption, but this is a very similar idea. With progressive music, you have to give it time. You have to almost, I said, you have to be with it. The album is not going to be your number one album first listen through. You have to go back, you have to work at it. It's like an exercise range, it's like running. You have to work with these things and go beyond your comfort zones. Today's youth, not all of them, and this is being very general, but most of them won't do that, because the music produced today is all click tracked. It's all 4 chords. It's all repeat, clean, repeat. It's basically selling something that sells quickly and easily and consumed easily, and you don't have to work for it. And that's why progressive won't ever go anywhere now. Anyway, it died off when punk hit, because punk, even though I viscerally love punk music, it killed it because people wanted to go back from the bloated arena keyboard solo 20-minute guitar songs and things to quick, fast, amphetamine driven rock and roll. And there is a beautiful thing. It's a truly beautiful thing, but it is to be consumed alongside, I think. I mean, John Lydon is, said he loves gong. I mean, he couldn't get any more psychedelic and progressive than gong. Maybe Hawk Green, possibly. So, that's probably why. And so when we're going to move on to progressive metal now. I did a bit of research this morning, and I actually couldn't believe I thought it was a close run thing, but for me, the very first real progressive rock metal album was Iron Maiden's Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. Now that was released, again, Russell. That was released on the 14th of April 1988. And then comes the second, and my opinion, probably the best of all of them, if you're wanting for a traditional progressive metal album that is basically a story driven with interesting and unusual time signatures and meters. Queens of Reich's Operation Mindcrime, 3rd of May 1988. So 1 month and 2 days. 1 month 11 days. difference. So like when the Beatles were making Sgt. Pepper and Beach Boys were making Pet Sounds, they all came out very similar time, and the same with these two albums. And I think there's something in the air and in the water, and it's all to do with the generation of the people making that music. So, Steve Harris is, he's in his 60s now, and he was listening to your progressive rock. I mean, he's had, I've said it before, massive, Genesis and Jethro Tull fan. So the same with the guys at Queensryche. They were probably also listening to that same generation of music. I think they're probably younger, only by a few years. And so they wanted to make music that was interesting and stark and dystopian. Whereas, Maiden were making, because it's definitely Steve Harris and written by all the guys, they were very into spiritualism, and they're very into mysticism, and I think that comes across on that album. Sorry, not the mic. So there you start it, right? There you start there, and you think, but I listen to progressive metal now, and it's so viscerally different from Operation Mindcrime and from Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And that's it, isn't it? That's the beauty of progressive music. Its meaning itself, it's progressed. And to me, again, I was thinking, it is a long word for you, juxtaposition. I know another long word, wheelbarrow, but that's okay. Juxtaposition is, it's the stark contrast of one thing to another. So, progressive metal is so different to traditional metal purely because it's doing what other progressive was doing 30 years, 40 years previously. It's taking a music form it loves, the core of what we love heavy metal for. It's fiery, it's dark, it's heavy, it's fast, it's exciting, it's fueled by the devil. But it's also then they take that and I want to stretch my wings. I want to use my abilities. Why am I held back by, basic rhythms and simple guitar solos and, chorus, verse, chorus? Why can't I do things that are different? And there you get your progressive music. So, the guitar solos are intricate and more, Mixolydian and sus sevenths and suspended chords and all those fantastic jazz fusion guitar pieces. And then you've got your flourishing drums, and there's keyboards coming in, and there's interesting vocal performances. And progressive in metal runs all the way through. It's not just your Opeth and your Dream Theater. It goes into like we did last week on the show. We're talking about ambient black metal with Alendi. That's progressive because they're taking a basic form of media which they love, and they're squeezing it and pulling it and shaping it and making it something so different, yet at its DNA so similar. Now, yeah, I get that the thrash heads out there and the death metalers out there and the black metal and the doom and all that, they all went, oh, it's a bit too complicated for me to play, so therefore I don't want to listen to it. I've heard that from people. I can't play it. These are musicians that are talking to me, so I'm not going to listen. What a load of, pardon my French, fucking nonsense. Beep. Sorry, too late. Because surely you can appreciate something you can't do. I cannot play the violin, but I appreciate and love when I hear a good piece of violin played. I cannot play a million notes on my fretboard and my guitar, but when I hear it, I'm in awe. So that's nonsense. I think it's you. What I'm coming from this episode, guys, is stretch your mind, take out that barrier, and give it a go. Because honestly, for me, the reason that prog is so important to me is it's opened so many barriers, so many doors. I went into jazz fusion, blues. A lot of blues I came via prog, actually. Just the intricacies of psychedelia, the late and unusual 60s pop bands from the UK and the US, and actually honestly all over the world. I mean, Denmark makes some amazing, interesting prog stuff, but so what I'm saying is, it's go out there and research and have a look at your progressive rock, progressive metal, because with progressive rock, it had subgenres. There's more though in the progressive metal world. Whereas progressive rock, you basically had your progressive rock with more. Now, if you went for your King Crimson and your Van de Graaff Generator, you had more fusion with jazz. If you had your Camel, it was more pastoral, like Genesis, but more instrumental. And then you had things like Soft Machine, which was a completely different aspect. That's a whole different show, Soft Machine. Anyway, but with the metal subgenre, you've got your progressive death, you've got your progressive black, you've got your progressive speed, you've got progressive all sorts of areas, because they're taking what they love as the core and expanding it. And it can be frightening for people, but I don't think you should be. I mean, the fantastic thing about streaming services now is that I can say to you guys, my recommendation: go and listen to NWOBHM's first 2 albums. Go and listen to Portal of Eye. Go and listen to Urn. Go and listen to, they're great albums. They're a Melbourne-based, I would call it progressive death metal band, or black metal band. They have 2 vocalists. They have Tim, who is a clean vocalist. They have Xenia, who is he is the typical black metal vocalist. He's thin, he's tattooed, he's jet black jeans, long black hair, and he growls like mad, and he's got an unbelievable guttural voice. And you've got Tim, who's got clean vocals, and he plays a violin, and you've got, a 6-string bass guitarist, and you've got an 8-string guitarist, and you've got these amazing... They're my favourite Australian progressive band. They're not for everyone, because some people can't get beyond the vocals, but of Xenia, and I think that's okay, that you can have your... I mean, I asked John to listen to them. He couldn't really get into the black vocals. Tap, tap, tap. Sorry, my keyboard's gone into... God, this is great podcasting, isn't it? 1 second. Oh, look at that. Anyway, excuse me 1 second. Tap, 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 tap. There we go. That was fantastic for a few seconds of wonderment. What I was going to say anyway was, so John really couldn't get into the vocals, and that again, I was very similar to him, but because I tried a bit and I got addicted to it, into the differences of it. Now I don't see it as different vocals. So, as I said, with Spotify, you can put things on. You can Google it, look for NWOBHM. You can go for Opeth. You can put Dream Theater on. You can put, I tell you, a brilliant progressive metal band from Sydney called Steel Storm. Steel Storm are brilliant. I reviewed them for Metal Ruse last year, maybe the year before. I think they were a 3-piece, but wow, the technicality in their playing is just stellar. And again, that's the thing, isn't it? I want technicality when I listen to this music. I want to listen to this piece of music and go, I cannot play that. I'm never going to be as good to play that piece of music, and I want it to be just to wash away and take me somewhere different. Whereas, when you pick up and you put on, I'm not going to say Iron Maiden, because they're actually technically quite difficult, but if you listen to some of the more easier pieces of music, like your Motorheads and stuff, you know that you can sort of pick a guitar up and thrash along to it. You could stand there with your broom in your hand if you're sweeping the house, and like I do, and pretend I'm playing a guitar. I mean, come on, I'm almost 50, but I still air guitar. I can't help myself. I'll always be 16, right? Whatever I do. And so I can do that there. I can't do that with the more technical pieces. I have to sit back and, I said, sort of let it be with you. You'd have to. That's not to say that it's not brilliant live, because NWOBHM live are fantastic. Really are. There's some other great bands that I urge you to listen to. Caligula's Horse. Oh, just wonderful. The wonderful Pliny. I saw him support Diano. Just great. Wow. I mean, he's like Satriani without the sterile feel of Satriani or Steve Vai, right? He has a bit more soul to his music. And that's another thing. People say, oh, but they're playing a million notes, or they're putting all this stuff in. Isn't it going to lose the spirit of rock and roll? Sometimes, yes. I agree with you. It does. Other times, and mostly not, the great prog performers and producers and engineers can pull out that melody. Same with the death metal vocals and the blackness. People say, no, there is melody there. It's just melody in a different way. I'm rambling. I'm coming to the end, guys. But so for me, just Google progressive music. Albums I'd start with, if you want to start from the beginning, do Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick or Aqualung, Genesis. I mean, yes, you could do all the early ones. I go straight for the greatest progressive album ever made, and that's A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Beautiful, wonderful. I've seen it performed, most of it live. It is just spectacular. I personally think, sorry if it's not your taste, it's the greatest album ever made. Yep, big call, but it is for me the greatest album ever made. So far, the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. Not a fan, don't like the Beach Boys, but it's there in the list. King Crimson, In the Court of the Crimson King, goes without saying. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, I'd go for definitely Brain Salad Surgery. And yes, honestly, truly, any Yes album. I'd probably say Close to the Edge, actually. I wouldn't do Tales from a Topographic Ocean, set up with your teeth in, or when you're drunk, or quickly, like I just tried. I'd do Close to the Edge, because it's got some of the best bass playing by Chris Squire you'll ever hear. And honestly, even thinking back, The Who, Tommy, probably the first real concept album, just go start there, actually, and come through. And then when we get to your metal albums, as I said, Operation Mindcrime, Iron Maiden, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, anything by NWOBHM, Opeth, again, too many to really name a few there. Dream Theater, again, so many. In fact, there's a live version of Dream Theater covering one of my favourite Marillion songs, which is Warm Wet Circles, and That Time of Night, which is amazing. Too many in that genre. I mean, just Google it, find your bands, get stuck in and have a listen. I hope this has opened your mind, expanded some of your thoughts, and taken away that mystique, because it is not. It is something to be enjoyed, and I want younger people to embrace it and go for it and do something different. Remember, as I said before, I'll leave this with you. Progression is about advocating progress and change of reform, a juxtaposition between one disparate idea to another disparate idea. All right, and it is about being different. If you want to put some jazz fusion noodling in your death metal, my God, do it. Out there, if you're gifted enough to be able to do that, why not? All right, there is, in music as in life, there are no boundaries, and you shouldn't have boundaries. You shouldn't really stick yourselves in boxes and genres. It is what we do because we enjoy it, because it gives us a sense of definition and understands where we are in the universe. But musically, anything is open. And honestly, all my best friends, they're all open-minded. John, Benji, Matt, Mulsey, they're all open-minded to things that are different, and I think that's what makes you a more interesting person for me. So be open-minded, get out there and try something different. That's the end of me today. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and I look forward to chatting with you next week. Bye, guys.
Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening on Amazon Music is included with your Prime membership. Just head to amazon.com/ad-free news podcasts to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads. Enjoy thousands of Acast shows ad-free for Prime subscribers. Some shows may have ads.